Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Astrology and Beyond. I am Tatiana, also broadcasting for ANN Archetypal News Network. Today is a very, very important video. I will call it a little bit of an astrological emergency video because I'm going to be talking about the upcoming eclipse, partial solar eclipse at 9 degrees of Aries. That's happening on March 29th. So hear me out, peeps, because as much as all eclipses are points of transformation, opportunities for soul growth, it pushes evolution forward and they happen every year. Certain eclipses have a little bit more of an oomph than others, and this one is one of them. The reason being because lots of the outer planets are about to shift. I mean, Neptune's about to shift into Aries. Uh, Uranus will eventually shift into Gemini. We have Pluto that recently moved into Aquarius. So a lot of the outer planets are just moving into these whole new energies, whole new gigantic collective cycles. And this means that this new energy cannot fully be anchored until we're able to release fully the old energy. Now, this doesn't mean that everything gets released at once. That doesn't mean that. However, it means that the push, the evolutionary push, is getting louder and stronger. So we have choice. When we are pushed to the edge and the limit, and it can get very uncomfortable, and the crisis can be almost unbearable and very overwhelming. And that's when we have kind of procrastinated letting go of the things we know we need to let go. When we have procrastinating around taking responsibility and ownership for our own creations, basically our own life. And that is our thoughts, beliefs, whether we have been created from a conscious place or an unconscious place, meaning there's nothing wrong from what place we create, but this is time to look at that. What have we created and from what place? And take back that ownership and say, well, I created this. It was not the outside didn't create my life. The outside didn't create my circumstances. Me with my belief, my choices and my actions created them. And that is out. It can be very painful to experience, and for some people this might feel almost like feelings of shame may arise, guilt, crises. In the worst of cases, lots of projections and fighting and arguments, and it's not me, it's always you, it's always blaming the outside. That will be the worst case scenario, and we might see these points of crisis. Now, for the conscious beings that we are all here on this, me, you and me here listening to this, I probably could intuit that all of you listening to this have a level of awareness to resonate to a certain degree to what I'm saying, with what I'm saying. Meaning, yeah, there's nobody here is perfect, there's no judgment and no that's not useful. It's like let's sit and just observe ourselves and say yes, take stock of what we have been doing, the our choices, the choices we've made, and how to move on forward by clearing house with the things that really are just no longer going. There's things that are completely completing, and this is cycles of lifetimes and lifetimes. So I'm going to elaborate more around all of these themes of complete, this is the last call for letting go of certain things. And so that the new energy that really wants to emerge, the true you, the true self, the true connected essence to the next level of experience can actually emerge with grace. This is why we do these videos, so that I can help you navigate these transits. So we're not blaming the outside or the world or people or why so and so did this or that, the politician, the friend, the family member, the boss. None of that. It's like, okay, how do I fit in with my own choices? Ooh. Oh, for me, it's been kind of brutal too, in having to come to terms with my own responsibility in all my choices. I'm going, okay, well, I gotta, grow up and see how moving on is not about being in the victim consciousness, like it's everybody's fault. So let me share a little bit of the chart so I can explain what I will be looking at and why this eclipse is so important. So we will be looking that the eclipse happens at 9 degrees of Aries. This is a partial solar eclipse. So when the sun is eclipsed, it's as though the identity, the ego self, the sun is represented by the vitality, by the ego. Healthy or unhealthy ego is just a neutral concept of what gives us a certain sense of being here in this dimension. And when there is an eclipse or a partial eclipse, it's as though anything of the energy of Aries, all of this energy tends to like go into its most unconscious level, as though lights were turned off. So the Aries energy in its shadow may exacerbate. So, what is the energies of Aries in its shadow? Impatience, excessive willfulness, rashness, mindlessness, to bigger degrees, aggression, anger. Um, what other themes could be like short-tempered, um, like again, the impatience and the restlessness, the frustration. All of these energies might kind of come up higher to the surface if we're not aware of why we need to look at the shadows of Aries so that we can better deal with these energies. So, what we might see in the world if we're not conscious is people acting out of rash decisions, impatience, maybe a lot of anger, fights, disputes, um, all kinds of conflicts. Uh, Even people not even regarding others, there could be a lot of that energy being brought up, but it's not the only thing. This is where the eclipse happens, meaning this is where the energy will be really strongly dark or obscured, only to see what are our new choices regarding this eclipse or regarding this energy. So it's not all Aries because we have a big, big, big Pisces stellium here. We're going to have Neptune at the very last degree of Pisces in its very last call on this energy. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail. Conjuncting Venus, that is retrograding, basically reassessing and reobserving relationships, money, value, self-worth, the feminine energy, all of the Venus themes. This is going to be also loosely conjunct Saturn in Pisces that we have been talking about, how Saturn is about creating the structures, taking responsibility, ownership, uh, growing up, setting healthy boundaries, etc. Now, this is a North Node eclipse, meaning that this whole eclipse of these two energies that are very different, the Piscean energy of dissolution, of endings, of completions, of deep trust in a grander path, together with the energies of initiation, action, let's go for it, and seeing when we are rash, impulsive, and maybe a little bit immature in these energies, how this combo might not be very pleasant. So this is why we're going to break it down to see how we can ride this wave and take the part of the responsibility we have towards this as individuals and the collective. So a North Node eclipse uh, means that we are it's an eclipse that is pushing us also towards self-leadership, towards courage, towards independence, towards personal truth. And because the North Node is not in Aries, but it's in Pisces, it's also an eclipse signaling that there is a part of soul alignment that is extremely important. Meaning, if we have been making decisions out of our ego desires and that are less than honorable, agendas, making decisions out of hidden agendas, out of personal selfish agendas. This can be very, very difficult. This could be where we get humbled, like down to the ground. So this invites us to be very, very mindful of how the new leadership that we're stepping into is truly aligned with absolute authenticity and truth about who we are, and that we can be that self openly with others. This is not about shaming, blaming others for not taking responsibility for who we are. If I say, well, you are doing this to me, then how am I not taking responsibility by saying, this is who I am and this is how I show up, and I'd like to show up this way, and honor you how you show up? Hey, friend, let's work together, By completely being super honest and totally stripped of all agendas or ego agendas. This is can be very brutal. Like I'm telling you, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. If we're not completely honest with who we are and can access a level of greater compassion and real reassessment of all of our motives, all of our shadows, and especially the shadow of Aries that might be coming up. So, um, because the South Node is right now in Virgo, we had talked about this being a time where obsessing over the how things are going to come up, it's not useful. However, the polarity of the eclipse, the energy polarity of the eclipse is the Libra polarity. And we have been seeing these Libra Aries eclipses throughout the whole past 2 years when, well, it's 18 months, when the nodes were in Aries and Libra. The North Node was in Aries and the South Node in Libra. So this is why I say this is like a last call eclipse, almost like almost. There will be one more eclipse that's going to happen in September of this year, which is going to be in Libra. And that will be the final completion of this call. So what is initiated now in this new moon, because it's the sun conjunct the moon close to the nodes, even though this is a partial eclipse, because as you can see, the node is far from the sun and the moon. So this means that the eclipse is not like as strong and potent, but it's still a crisis point. It's still an evolutionary point. Eclipses are considered to be taken up to 16 degrees of separation from the nodes when the new moons or full moons. So this is a new moon eclipse, which means there's going to be new beginnings or new things set up in motion that still will require some releases from the old from for the next 6 months to come. Whatever, it's the new energy that wants to come in, that we're like, yes, ready, go, let's do it, let's let's do it now. This is going to be a little bit set back because it's this clearing house as we build new. So my recommendation during this eclipse is to first clear house. Have your ideals or ideas of what's the new to come, but don't go like full steam ahead, because what's going to happen is Saturn is going to go and put big brakes on it if we haven't really previously like dealt with all this karmic endings. We gotta clean up the mess first of all that we've created, and these could be patterns and patterns from childhood, from even further back if you believe in past lives, or even genetic lineages, when we can see past lives in two different ways, like in the light of well, an actual soul experience in a lifetime that is happening in the now moment of the quantum, all that is, but in our linear time could be seen as a past previous existence. If that doesn't fit your belief system, sometimes it could be equated as a soul, uh, a, an imprint of a genetic imprint passed down from generations past, where experiences of our ancestors get passed down through our genetics, and we carry that, and therefore we have archetypal memories of that. And these things are the things that we're wanting to clear, release, finalize. So either way, we could see it as I do believe in the past life as the soul having had experiences in past lives, and also the genetic imprints of the ancestors. So either way, what's important is to understand that this time is a time of big, ginormous karmic endings, where things that we left in the frying pan, they're overdue, they're done, they're cooked, move on. It's like there are agreements, soul contracts and agreements that are really coming to an end. Now, we need to either extract the lesson with why this soul showed up in our lives, why the conflicts, why the difficulties, what this person or people were in our lives, or why these situations occurred, so that we can actually go, okay, I got the lesson from it. I don't need to repeat this lesson. And I don't certainly don't need to keep repeating it with the same soul circle. If we can go, okay, I get it. This is what I needed to learn for myself, and then release, poof that energy out with forgiveness, with the deep sense of forgiveness. Like, I thank for the experience. I forgive you for whatever this experience could have brought to me as pain. And I ask for forgiveness for whatever I could have done to hurt you. That's the Ho'oponopono. And then we release the energy through forgiveness. And that is going to be a giant piece of this eclipse, if you're conscious and want to do this conscious work. Otherwise, it might just be ripped off of you, because what happens with eclipses is if you don't evolve, you will be evolved like this. All right. So this is kind of mostly what we're looking at. So with this, we have the 10th square between the T square between Lilith, Mars, and Chiron. And we did talk about this in the previous video, so I would recommend you watch my previous video on the other eclipse, where I extensively touched on this configuration, which again puts energy of conflict between what we truly want to become, the essential self, and then the compromises or people-pleasing tendency which we might still be hanging on because of fear of stepping up to the courage, having the courage to find our own path and to forging our own path of safety and security, which is a delicate balance between the self, the knowing of self, and fitting in with others. So this tightness of configuration might still bring a lot of conflict within relationships, because we have Lilith in Libra retrograding back into Libra, again, reviewing some of the relationship topics. So there's a lot of relationship issues. This eclipse is hosted by Mars because it's an eclipse in Aries. So this configuration will have a lot to do with whether or not we're capable of resolving relationship issues, like the hard way or the easy way. And it's all up to us to use the tools we have. Again, tools of forgiveness, heart circles, nonviolent communication, any tools that you can pull from your back to see. We're not going to avoid the conflict. The conflict is going to be there. It's going to be there. You can't avoid it, can't escape from it. And certainly the tendencies of people pleasing and coping by escaping are not going to work. This is where we have to go, okay, what did you create? How can we solve, resolve, and conclude these relationships or these dynamics? Sometimes it's not necessarily getting rid of relationships, it's more dynamics. How do we conclude the dynamics, and how we can have open conversations and open-hearted truthful, vulnerable, because the vulnerability comes into this Piscean realm of the compassionate self that has compassion for the oneness that we all are. So it's not to look at the other as an other that's hindering my existence, but looking at the oneness that if I heal myself and I forgive, then they heal and they forgive. And then the whole oneness thing can actually be actualized. So this is kind of the point of our of how we look at this and how we show up during these times of crisis, especially when the world might be more on the darker side of this eclipse, which is the consciousness bulb turns off, this energy, the worst of the shadow of Aries comes up, and we might see all kinds of people in rage, in anger, and in blame. So how do we show up for that? That's going to be the big question. And what is also wonderful is that we're having this Uranus in a sextile with Saturn and a sextile with Mars. So there is this energy pushing for freeing up all of those entanglements, all of the agreements, contracts, entanglements, karmic things. There is a very positive push from Uranus wanting us to liberate in a positive way. This is where we can actually, instead of ripping apart and throwing out the baby with bathwater, this is where we can really go, well, this is where relationships can end peacefully, in the sense that we can really say, we need to break up. And it's better for you to go that way and for me to go this way, because it's healthier for both of us. It's that kind of energy where both people, and I'm taking the example of, let's say, a couple, have come to the realization that this is the best course of action, and that they each need to find their their way out, and that there is not necessarily a need to rebel anymore against oppressive structures like rebelling, but just going like, if we do this freeing up while we're still honoring certain commitments, if we do it like slowly and not rip it apart, we don't necessarily end up with more karma. This is why Saturn is kind of slows down the process of the freeing up, but it slows it down for a reason. And this reason can be many reasons, like putting healthy boundaries, like uh, setting up realistic ways so that this freeing up or uncoupling can be successful for all parties. So you see, this is where this energy becomes helpful if we don't let the worst of the Mars, it's me, myself, I, it's my own security, I don't care about you, like the uncompassionate, it's me, myself, and I, it's my own will, it's my own agenda, and I'm going to do this. Then this little sextile that is wanting to say, hey, there's ways to free oneself up while still, creating new structures. It's almost like the old structures want to dissolve, and there's new things wanting to come into play, but we can actually adjust the old things to the new things, and it's like a little bit of an adjustment, but it's with the responsibility that we take for our actions and choices. And I can give you my own personal example, which is it's very humbling to a certain degree, and it's freaking scary. And I will talk about this in my personal example, because this is happening to me as a direct trine to my son. So for me, it's difficult, but it's not as hard. Uh, and so these are like the main components that this eclipse will be providing. So now I'm gonna stop so that you see like what I'm reading, but I think my face is better. So back into the 29th degree of uh, of Neptune, because it is the 29th degree, this is really the exacerbation of this energy. Neptune is completing its cycle in Pisces, and it won't be there until very, very long, not in our lifetimes again. So we won't see a Neptune in this cycle. So through these cycles, so this completion, we might feel that the energy of Neptune is really high, like the other side is almost visible, like we're super sensitive. Dreams, we might have co total connection to archetypal energies, feelings, imprints, dreams, knowingnesses, feelings that something's blending with this reality of your current self to other realities, and you don't understand you, but you feel that something is dissolving and that you need to kind of surrender fully. So there are collective themes of letting go of big, big, big things. So especially of outdated illusions, outdated spiritual or emotional attachments, things that you thought that's the only way, because there is something so amazing coming, more based in truth, in true spirituality, not the fake. And I'm gonna say the kind of the woo-woo spirituality or the new agey spirituality that we've been seeing a lot, the kumbaya bypassing, wearing all kinds of, the guru kind of spirituality where we're following gurus, and if we go kumbaya, it's all gonna work out. It's almost like this time, this Piscean time of the religions, of the organized religions, of the let's follow some kind of ideal out there, that is God is out there and they'll take care of me. I don't have to do anything. I just have to go and repent for my sins or stuff like that. Or the new age spirituality where it's like, oh, if I take all these things that get me high, and I'll just connect with spirit, and then everything's resolved. These are the things that are going to be kind of brought up for like release, so we can enter a new era of spirituality based on something much more true, much more real, much more concrete, where spirituality is not about all those escapist tendencies. And I'm not saying everybody does escapism or bypassing, or no, and there's a use for all of it. Nothing is not to say that these things are couldn't be useful, but these illusions that there's some kind of messiah or savior out there, whether it is, somewhere around, it's not, this is not going to do it. The new way of being spiritual is based on my responsibility for the choice of being here on the planet. Meaning, I cannot say, why am I here? I am a victim of this planet. It's like, hey, well, from a soul point of view, I chose to be here. I chose all these lessons. Hence, that's why we have a birth chart and a blueprint where we can actually see what are the things that our soul chose to do. And on that note, if you'd like a reading with me to understand a little bit of how that birth chart um, impacts your life, your choices, please let me know. It's down in the comments. In the description box, you have all the information of how to contact me, so I can give you some guidance around that. So the blueprint, we came with a blueprint because we know that there is that we came to fulfill certain gifts and move throughout certain times where there could be challenges in order to evolve our souls, etc., etc., etc. Right? So this is the time where we take responsibility for our own creations, everything we create, and we become conscious creators. So isn't that like super cool to say, hey, wait a minute, if I can create everything, then what do I need to do? And this is where we go, okay, I need to look at myself first and what I'm thinking, and having clarity. And that clarity is what right now is kind of like this. There's not much clarity because Nep Mercury is also retrograding into Pisces, and we're gonna be like in the soup of archetypal images, in the soup of consciousness that can create a lot of confusion. So if you're feeling completely overwhelmed by the confusion, by the not knowing, that's totally fine. This is kind of meant to be. We're not meant to try and hold on super tightly to what we think should be, because this is precisely what can like, you know, this is like, okay, confusion is fine. Allow this confusion to take you to get the ride, get all these karmic imprints out, um, by just observing them, feeling them, sense the pain, sense the fear, feel the discomfort, feel the anger. I'm going to give you a little example. The other day, I was feeling extremely frustrated, and I felt like this anger coming up, and I'm not a person to have much of anger and frustration in my being, really, but I tend to repress it, and I don't express it much outside. And usually I try to stay calm. But what started happening was that my body started to heat up. And this is like a function of Mars in Cancer. It's also that kind of like heat, it's the waters. It's almost like boiling water, you know? And this was exactly what I was feeling. I was feeling my blood boiling. Like my whole system was hot, so hot that I started like, but I couldn't do anything. So my partner and I just put a Meatloaf song. I don't know if you remember Meatloaf, but I was like, first I went and played the piano very fiercely, very passionately. So the positive of Aries is passion. So we want to try and um, emote or latch on to the positives of the archetype, which during an eclipse, as we said, the eclipse in Aries will do all the shadows can come up. What we can do consciously is like, okay, if these are the shadows, what are the gifts? Oh, the gifts of Aries, courage. The gift of Aries is like determination. The gift of Aries is curiosity. It's also passion. So these are the gifts. So how can we latch on to that? What are our passions? Or if we have anger trapped in, anger therapy. And the way I did my anger therapy, so I could release that energy so that it wouldn't end up in some kind of accident, or even worse, hurting or harming someone, because we might just lose it and say words that we don't mean. But when you're frustrated, you can, I mean, we can be very tactless. And that's part of the Mercury in Aries too, is like lack of tact. It could be just like throwing things without thought. So, how do we behave when we know that's the possibility? We do our tools. So, tool number one, how to deal with the Aries energy when it turns out and and frustration arises. So, I'm going to tell you the meatloaf therapy. So, I went first, piano. What I call like angry piano, passionate piano, not angry, passionate piano. And then I said, oh, this reminds me of meatloaf because, they have like very intense piano. So I put a song. I mean, two meatloaf songs or three, I don't remember. We just put it in. We're in the kitchen, and here we are, like, like literally, like just shaking the body and letting it out, and just like almost like in a catharsis of this passionate piano, guitar, you know. Anyway, what happened after that release, where my blood was literally boiling, and not only that, I've had been diagnosed previously at some point last year during a lot of my stressful times with fibromyalgia. And I'm like, what? Me, the most active person in the world? What's this? Literally, I was starting to feel the weakening of my muscles, the weakening of my body, and the shutting down of my energy. It was very scary. But of course, I kind of acted upon it. Um, and by again moving more, going to dance, doing things that I'm passionate about, because the frustration comes when you are not able to be who you are. This is really the nature of frustration, is you don't recognize who you are and you're unable to express it. So if we don't have the words and the means to express it and to say to others, look, this is who I am, this is how I want to show up, and be at peace with who you are, let alone if you don't even know who you are and what you want, then it's even more confusing. But second, if you do know, but you still get frustrated because there's things that are out of your, let's say, control, and you're in situations that you have created that are frustrating, then use the anger therapy, or the passion therapy. Put songs, dance them out. This will release pent-up energy. Instead of a volcano exploding, this is you releasing the energy consciously, and we are connected to the field of everything. So each person that does that for themselves is helping the planet not to erupt a volcano. I know this sounds crazy, but that's how the fractals work. If the psyche is consciously driven, or the thought is consciously driven by the being, the generalized psyche starts releasing pressure. So this is how we can help avoid bigger conflicts like wars exploding, or volcanoes exploding, or things like that, that you go like, why? How am I, this little person, able to affect that? Because I'm a creator of realities. So if I do it inside myself, I help the collective. And this is my responsibility. This is exactly what I'm saying. This is how we take responsibility for ourselves. And it was actually very fun. You know, I don't listen to these kinds of music, but it could be something else. It could be like pillow punching, running, treadmilling, going up a mountain, really like being very active, or doing something very passionately, and hopefully not ever hurting anybody. So that's tool number one for that excessive Aries energy. Now, the tool number two is because we have that Neptune in that retrograde, and sorry, Neptune in that anuretic degree of 29th, with these final completions, is to really, 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 really let go and grieve. Just grieve it, let it go, cry it out. Say, I have loved this. I had been attached to this. I have been loving this person, place, relationship thing. It ran its course. Let's cry together and allow the tears to wash it off, so that the peace comes in, so that oh, I feel good. And then now I feel good about this release. So allow the letting go, just allow it. And the letting go, only you know what the letting go it is for you. And it's in the Pisces area of your chart. So wherever that falls, wherever you're having the late degrees of Pisces, that's where this letting go is occurring. And karmic contracts, places, people, things, illusions. And letting go doesn't mean necessarily, like I said, a complete, it's gotta disappear. Sometimes is the patterns attached to it, the behaviors. So maybe there is a behavior to be let go of, not necessarily a person or a place or a thing. But chances are that this is going to be more the norm. Now, the Venus retrograde that is conjuncting Saturn, it's it's about having deep compassion and love, first for self. Again, the self love. If we can't have love for self, how do we expect to have love for anything or anyone outside of ourselves? So, and love for self is not being narcissist. That's so much in our being that we can't see others. No, it's kind of the opposite. It's like seeing others truly for who they are, with vulnerability, with compassion, with care, and also seeing ourselves with that same vulnerability, compassion, and care. So can we have that, right? Um, so unresolved soul contracts with this Venus retrograde will be also up for review. Mm, the collapse of fantasy-based love as well, meaning if we had these fantasies of the ideal romantic fantasies of something, but that weren't rooted in reality or in truth, but more on an ego desire, these fantasies will be washed away with the tides. The deep questions will come back again. What do I truly value? What is love that endures beyond illusions? You know, the illusions is when we put people or ideas in a pedestal, but we're not seeing them for who they truly are. We just see what we want to see. Is the rose-colored glasses. So the rose-colored glasses are kind of, you're gonna have to take them out and see, oh yeah, I had this veneer or idea, and this is not reality. What is reality? And again, reality has so many layers. We might not even know, because we are within a simulation as well of a reality, but within these constructs, Can we see the construct for what it is? And can we um, strive to move beyond the construct to go to a more truer reality of what we are as spirit? This is the other thing. The matrix is not a reality, it's also a construct. And what we create in our brains and minds are also constructs. So the true reality happens when all these thoughts and archetypal images dissolve. And then there's a silence. And on this note, I would like to read for you um, a little bit from the Gene Keys, because this brought to me the importance of Gene Key 11, which is the Gene Key of obscurity, idealism, and light, which is exactly what I'm talking about the veneers, about the ideals that are just pure fantasies. And they're great for movies, but they might not be as great if we want to have a true, real experience of life that is fulfilling. So the repressive nature of this shadow is fantasizing. When the archetypal imagery of the right brain is repressed, it turns inward and creates a world of fantasy. There is nothing wrong with fantasy so long as it finds a healthy and creative outlet, but in most cases it does not find such an outlet. The foundation of repression is fear, and when the fear is not embraced, it creates an enormous drain on our whole body and being. Unlived lives gradually drain the physical energy from the body, leading to all manner of physical health problems. Even worse than this, inner fantasies that do not find a creative outlet block us from following our true destiny. Our destiny is always hidden away behind these fantasies. So again, if you're the person that's just always just dreaming about, oh, this and that, but it's never actualized, then it just frustrates the energy. And it's all a veneer of fantasy. Whereas we're living a life right now. And this life can only be lived and seen in the present, not in the mind. The mind will always be creating fantasies, ideas, archetypes, images. The present moment where I'm standing is where I can create from by moving step by step with what I have in front. There is nothing fantasious about where I am. Where I am is like, I'm in this place has this, has that. What's my next choice? Let's connect. Oh, my next choice is this. That creates the next level of my experience. This is how we ground the fantasies. Not easy for people that are very dreamers and, you know, and I'm one of them. I personally have this Jinky 11th. And the reactive nature diluted. The reactive nature rooted in denial and anger turns the inner fantasy into a projection field and tries to manifest it in the world. If the anger were embraced and the deeper fear owned, then the archetypes within us would indeed manifest in the world. But the reactive nature never allows this. Reactive natures use the outer world to hide from what lies within them. These are the kind of people who have a great idea in their minds, but they never manifest it. Because of the depth of their denial, they cannot let go of the inner image they have of what they would one day become. So this shadow of the reactive nature is like being so attached to that projection of what we need to be that we're never really fully in the present right now where we should be. This is our life. Our life is right now. It's not in a future that doesn't exist. So those are the two shadows. Now, the idealism, which is the gift, this is what we are also trying to bring forth, is detaching with this Neptune at the 29th degrees, and we're detaching from from these tendencies, which are escapism, fantasies, illusions, and delusions. And what comes out of having awareness, and this is why Saturn is helping us, is that the groundedness comes with being in the present, right? So this the only thing needed for magic to occur is some form of structure and an open mind. This is kind of a little bit of where the gift can come from. And this is where Saturn comes in, because the structure given by Saturn is we can only act in the present moment. A thought will always just be a thought. an idea. But if we're like this, looking at the idea and we never move towards an action or, or something concrete that has a form, whereby the energy of the archetype can actually actualize, then it never happens. And then we're always in this delusion or denial. So this is exactly what needs to go. So if you, my friend, are in this boat of, or you're the kind of person that is always kind of dreaming and not really actualizing and always maybe complaining about why life is not turning out the way you would like it, then the invitation is to come back to what have you created? What's in front of you, and good, say, okay, what am I grateful for? What are the really awesome things I have created? Oh, well, I have a home, I have I don't know, a cat, I have this, I have that. um i I do this, like really go back to what's in your present, and then look at what are the things that I'm still uncomfortable with, that in my reality are not resonating. Maybe it's the job I'm doing. Maybe it's, certain friendships that are draining my energy. Maybe it's, I'm no longer satisfied with this or that. And these are the things that we have to be really honest and put that boundary with and say, I love you, and I think this is as far as I'm going to go with this. Thank you. And I love you and I wish you well. And I'm making a choice for myself. So this is a time for making choices for oneself based on this reviewing. Now, do not rush the reviewing, because this is the caveat. During this period of time, this eclipse point, what can happen is that the review process uh, cannot be rushed. This is not like, well, I don't like this, the end, delete. This will have a lot of back and forth, and you'll have to tune in. So if you're getting yourself super busy to avoid this review, you're gonna feel the severance of this. So take the time to go in and out, tuning in, reviewing the relationships. Now, not only relationships, because that's of Venus, money and values, everything that's tied to Venus, pleasure, money, values, and the feminine. So this could be anything having to do with women, to the feminine, to money. So in my own case, I'm going to share with you why my case is a very good example of of how to take ownership. And not that I say it's easy. I'm having a lot of fear, that Chiron, right? Going like, "Ugh, could I do this? Could I do this?" I have one day I'm like, I can't do this. I'm just gonna throw everything. I'm just gonna throw everything and just go somewhere, hide under a rock. That's sometimes I have this feeling, and I'm like, you know what? No, okay, you know better than this. Work with the energies of Saturn and say, okay, I can do this. It's just a step-by-step thing. Let go, sit. Uh, I I had this dream, this big dream of one day having this kind of retreat center type where I would be offering all my gifts through my art. And I had this big dream that it would be just this big ideal place, and with a community of wonderful people that would come in, and I moved towards that dream, knowing that I was kind of pushing it back in 2020, like, this is my dream, I gotta make it happen, I gotta make it happen. So I was using my energy to make it happen, maybe with a lot of decisions that were not quite conscious, let's say. And in that decision making process, I kind of avoided a lot of responsibilities for those decisions regarding the people and the places. And I got my literal money, like my inheritance, invested in several places that had this potential. And because of, life and people and conflicts and things, and there has been different several conflicts within these endeavors that I got into. And I'm like, I'm now having to see and review all of where my responsibility was avoided, and going, okay, I need to review, like, like, where's all this money? Did I even take any responsibility for it? Did I let others do everything because I was too afraid to speak up or say, or step into more of a leadership role where I could have more of a say? Uh, was I, so I'm going back and forth with these things and going like, oh, wow, I'm really in a pickle where this is a real review time for me to end things. And I've been faced with well, there's something that you need to make a decision on. Certain things need to end and just close them off. So I have been moving forward little by little with these endings and grieving the losses as well. A lot of money lost, like a lot of it, a lot because of these decisions. So it's not me blaming people. It's me having made decisions that were not necessarily conscious. But now, okay, how can I turn this thing around? It's like, okay, accept the loss, grieve it, remove the energy that's holding back and move on and accept the loss. And it's okay. So when I came to terms with, okay, there's going to be a loss and it doesn't matter, money is money, and what do I truly value? Then I go back to observing, well, what do I truly value? And the true values might come from my skills, from what I was given by God, the skills I have and what I really love doing. And I love sharing these astrological gifts, and love sharing and I love helping people through art, through giving them all I know with my art and my dance. So it's like this has been like narrowing down to, well, if I'm going to offer gifts to the world, they have to be totally connected to myself, and the energies cannot be just too scattered. So this is a point where the reason I gave you these examples is so that you see that, we're all in a journey where we make choices, and these choices, we make them. People don't make them for us. If we're still thinking that others make choices for us, it's because we are not stepping up to make the choices and be accountable for those choices. And that it's where I said that there could be shame coming up, because we're like, oh, I was so stupid to do this. But that attitude is more of a victim attitude, and that's not helpful because shame doesn't align with self-love. Self-love is like it's like instead of shame, if you are in this boat and you feel that, oh, I did it was the wrong choice, and oh, poor me or whatever, just kind of don't go there. It's not useful. Instead, get the parent self that will say, you know what? It's like a child, you fall, you scrape, it's okay. There's nothing wrong. You went that way and you, yeah, you got all in the mud and now you're like this and it's okay. We'll just wash you and we'll keep going. And maybe next time you just won't go that way. It's as simple as that, as having, this is why the compassion is so important at this time. The compassion towards ourselves is, you know what, you did what you did and it's not wrong. It's just like, dust yourself, move on, love yourself, and just learn the lesson. So if we learn these lessons, so we take responsibility for how we have acted and behaved, and also the forgiveness part that I keep talking about, the forgiveness is extremely healing, extremely healing. So I would say just go that route instead of the blame route. The blame route will only create more karma and more of these cycles. This is the time where we're just ending them. Or these cycles are severed, like in a very drastic way, and it's ugly and is and then your rug is pulled under you, and it could feel extremely overwhelming. And some people might not be able to cope with the overwhelm on their nervous system. So why even go there? You could end up ill or even worse in an accident. So to avoid these things, take it one little piece at a time and allow yourself to be. Now, this new moon eclipse is also going to bring maybe this fated new beginnings. Because it's a new moon eclipse, it will show as these things are ending, closing up, poof, there's like a new something, almost like a window that goes pop, or a cut, or something that propels you into some direction. But lo and behold, this new direction that is kind of going, if we take the without this, slow and steady um, pacing towards it, this is where we can crash and burn. So my recommendation for this, as you see, oh, there's these new people, these new opportunities and possibilities, and I'm going that way, go slowly. Go slowly. Because if this is not truly aligned with yourself, like I said, but with your ego, what can happen is that as you try to put form to this, like this is what I want, when Neptune will keep dissolving that. However, when Neptune and Saturn come together later, Neptune will go, "Pooh, this is not aligned with your soul. Let's dissolve this." So you might be frustrated that why is this not working? I thought I wanted to go that way. If it's still with an agenda and from your ego and from a selfish place, it might not work. However, if this is really aligned with your soul, with some higher form of service, that is it's almost like I say to God source energy, I said, God will is my will. So this is part of a mantra. God will is my will. That means that you're not like, oh, I don't, this is not what I want to do. No, if you're truly aligned with your deep soul, you'll be the most happy, realized person ever. So this is why God's will is my will. God's will is my will. What happens there is that this Neptune energy, that is this more divine essence of soul, when Saturn comes along, is able to actually give it a form. So you see the difference? So it depends who you are and at what stage of life you are and at what stage of understanding and awareness you are. And again, there's nothing wrong if you're in a previous stage where suddenly you might get your life a little bit upside down and you're just learning, and that's fine too. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just getting the lesson and understanding why it's better to make a choice first from a true level of having um moved beyond selfish ego desires to more aligned service oriented desires that are aligned with what you want to serve as. So be careful here because you could see like service as like, oh, I'm of service to others, but you're doing all these things, but they're not really aligned with you. You do them to please. You do them because you'll be accepted or liked, and you think you're doing service. This would be, let's say, the non good way of doing this because this will come and bite you back, you know? This is where this Lilith comes in, this Lilith in Libra, again, trying to go, I'm not going to be doing things that are not aligned with me. So it's find how you are authentically serving the whole, and you'll be golden. You see? Fantastic. Um, so I will give you a few more mantras. So this is, I reclaim my heart from illusion and act from truth. I reclaim my heart from illusion and act from truth. And you can just say that. The truth is the truth of your being. Two, I honor the past, but I no longer live there. I honor the past, and this could be your ancestors, your ancestry, your family, your friends, or everything you've lived. I honor the past, but I no longer live there. I live in the present. I create from the present. I live in the present. I create from the present. Simple. And you can also say, I end karmic patterns in love and rise into soul aligned action. I end karmic patterns in love and rise into soul aligned action. The more we say these mantras, because of neuro linguistic programming, reprogramming, the more we embody the energy. Because the mantra is not just about the word, it's the word with the feeling. What does it mean to live from truth and giving up the illusion? What does it mean to really let the past go and be fully present and feel that you're here? You're here now in your body, in this beautiful, wherever you are, room. And what does it mean to feel that the things that you're no longer wanting to be attached to are removed and you let them go in a beautiful pink bubble of love. You really remove them like this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. This is the Ho'oponopono, you know? Please forgive me. I forgive you. Thank you. I love you. Bye. And then what is soul aligned action? Soul aligned action is like feeling like that excitement of how you want to feel in your body, not so much the images of how that looks like, but how that feels like. And when we embody that feeling, it's like, well, I'd like to feel in that my gifts that I know I have, that I enjoy doing, the art or the dance or the movement, are going to be expressed and shared. And in sharing them, I feel connected and I feel a vibration of love and harmony. And my relationships are harmonious and there's a field of energy that is uplifting. And this is what I mean by feeling. So as you say, your mantras, feel these energies so you can actually start bringing them in. Easier said than done, I know, but this is why I'm here. Come on, we do it. We've got this. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about before I wrap up, because it's going on a little bit long, but this is really important. I think you got this, is who is going to be really affected by this most, powerfully. So, Aries, people with Aries, especially anything like the sun, the moon, your ascendant, but also any of the angles. So, your ascendant, your descendant, midheaven, or IC, any of the angles. If you have that around the 6th to the 12th degree of Aries, more or less, or even a little bit more, let's say, to be safe, any Aries person. But it's more like the early to mid degrees of Aries that are going to be affected, because for this people there's going to be a personal rebirth, a boost of courage, independence, like a boom, radical soul alignment. And if you have been really off, it's going to be strong. If you've been kind of on it and working on yourself, it might be like, oh, it might be very obvious. The opening might be obvious and could be very exciting. The Libra people, which will have the opposition, so this will have you maybe have relationship issues. So anything, again, the same points, angles, or planets in Libra, discomfort with relationships, there might be, again, an ask to release people-pleasing tendencies, find a healthy balance between self and others. Um, and that way, you might be much more able to navigate this if you can see where you have been actually falling into this like people-pleasing tendencies. Cancer and Capricorn, which are the squares. Again, anybody with points or planets, Cancer or Capricorn, you might find that. So for the Cancer, you might feel torn between like the safety of what you know, your emotional self, the needs, and then the call to action to just step up to something. And that might feel a little bit challenging because it's like, come on. Because Cancer tends to be more like, I like my safety. This is how I like it. This is my status quo. It's easy. I feel good here. This is gonna be, well, this is gonna start getting pokey. So you're gonna be like, ooh, and this might just get you off your seat, and that might feel a little bit challenging. And for the Capricorn, this might be kind of a little bit the opposite. It might need to, if you're, especially if you're a very ambitious and controlling Capricorn that needs to, like, be at the top despite of everything else, well, you might be humbled down, like, really, and to the most vulnerable places that you can have, because Capricorn, because the Capricorns tend to be serious, determined, they're the boss, they're up there, they're like seeking status and productivity, and it's very, you know well, if you're very Capricornian and very stern, let's say, and rigidity, this might go and just break you into, hey, chill a little bit and balance that ambition and that desire to reach the top with, hey, relinquish control. You're not the only one. Learn to share and still give your gifts of organization and groundedness and leadership. But hey, there's others too. Others are going to be able to step up in their leadership roles as well, because we are entering an era with this Pluto in Aquarius, where there's going to be this drastic changes in how we operate and how governments operate. And the new systems of government are not going to be top to bottom, are going to be self-directed, almost like sociocratic, or self-directed means it's my self-authority. When I have my authority of my own self, and I know my doing my service to others is of the good, it's for the good of the collective. Nobody needs to tell me what to do. I have my own responsibility over my own, I have my own authority. So this is where self-leadership is going to just start naturally popping. So people that have been extremely controlling and wanting to tell others what to do, no, they know the way, you don't. I'm here and I'm just, and squishing their own desires for leadership. These people might find it more challenging if that's the case. If you're not that type, that kind, and those planets in Capricorn are not so rigid for you, then chances are you might also fare well. Again, things to be aware of, right? And other signs that will be affected to a lesser degree, fire signs, so Leo and Sagittarius might get a little bit of a boost of expansion. If you have anything in Leo and Sagittarius, you might find like there's, because these are the trine aspects. It's like, okay, there's going to be a little boost of energy, maybe more of a less of a crisis and more of an opportunity that could happen. And air signs, Gemini and Aquarius, there might be some creative sparks and ideas that suddenly poof, get into your mind, and you have this like ideas to create better solutions in your environment or socially or with your friends or even in your community. So this might be a little bit more of a power boost. Um, So, if you have the sun, the moon, the ascendant midheaven, Venus, Mars, or Chiron, again, the sun, the moon, your ascendant, your midheaven, Venus, Mars, or Chiron, in in this area of the chart, this is where you could have that particular planet being the energy of that planet. So for the sun, so whoever has their sun or their birthday on that day, watch out for like, where is your personal identity shifting? Where do you need to let go or die to an old identity to shift into a new identity? If this is touching your moon, where do you need like an emotional reset? Like where your coping mechanisms or your emotional reactions, what makes you feel safe, is outdated, and now you need a new sense of how to with your emotional intelligence and maybe find a path that's more intuitive, that's more in aligned, not with what you grew up to be modeled by your family or your mother, but your own sense of safety and your emotionality as an adult or a grown-up. If it's hitting your ascendant, the reinvention of your image and how you enter the world, meaning how you how you show up. This might mean like if you're an Aries rising, for instance, this is like people might have seen you in a certain light or a certain way and they perceive you, but it's up to you to completely change that way of showing up. That people might go like, wow, I don't recognize you, down to even your personal appearance. If it's your midheaven or up where the 10th house starts. So career themes. This might be like this is the end of where you had set your energy in your career. This will change for you. It's time to let go of whatever you have been doing, or even the way of doing it needs a total revamp. Venus, if you have Venus in Aries or Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, big themes around relationships and values. So this is where most likely there's going to be separations, breakups, or complete revaluations of your values, your money, or the people in your life. Mars, if you have Mars in any of these signs, action, drive, and even anger may be up for realignment. So it's like what drives you and what motivates you. And if you, for example, have again a lot of pent-up anger from the past, I would suggest do some anger therapy, even seek professional advice, because this can be blocking the actual energy that wants to push you forward into an action that's really aligned with something that you could that with passion. This is where you kind of ignite your passion. So if you're not in alignment with your passion will have to have some realignment. And last but not least, people with Chiron in Aries, and this is a lot of the generation that it's, in their 40s, 50s. Deep, like late 40s, like very late 40s and 50s. This is where you only have this going like um deep healing trigger if it's conjunct the eclipse. So, and the healing, again, this is if it's around the ninth degree. I would say for Chiron is the orb is really tight. So I would say if you have Chiron around those like, let's say 8, 9, 10, 11 degrees of Aries, I will go like really reassess why you are so afraid of going for what you were here to do. What's keeping you so small? That little child that believes they're not deserving of doing what they were here to do, to take action. So I would go and do a lot of inner child work if you're that person, because a lot of the people that are in their late 40s and early 50s. Uh, yeah, especially yeah, you might you might be feeling this as like, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. Like, I'm not good enough to do this. I can't do this. I can't do this, you know. Summon the courage and talk to that little child and tell them you're safe to do this, you're safe to be a leader, you're safe to go out in the world is safe, you know. Back then when we were killed, that's no longer, again, that's the past. When the warriors would go to war and, you know, um, of course, that can be very scary. Warriors going to war and getting ready to fight in battle and getting chopped and cut, and that's a lot of trauma to be held throughout this our history. So a lot of people might have been holding that in their soul trauma. So this is where we can say, you know what, we're in a different time and age and era, and we're no longer going to necessarily go and have to fight a battle with swords and in a battlefield. You know what I mean? It's like this is a time where we can come into much more alignment with passion and aligning our energy of leadership towards a better future for everybody that doesn't include any of that. So you see all of this. This is why with this Neptune ending and blending, you might be feeling all these fears, all this like call to action, but you can't, but you're afraid. It feels confusing. Past lives, present, future, dreams, craziness. So be kind, be gentle to yourself. And I think this is where I'm going to leave it today because there could be, I mean, there's so much more I could say just about this eclipse, but I think this was enough to put you into context. So I would recommend now, last recommendations for this eclipse, on the eclipse or before. So before the eclipse, if you can consciously do your releases and you're ready, almost like I'm ready to step through this portal and I'm ready to release these things. Do your ho'oponoponos, your prayers, and your forgivenesses before the portal. When you are during the eclipse, try not to be in contact with too many people, too much going on, because chances are that the energies that are in the field are so heightened that you might absorb a lot of energy. There might be a lot of anger in the air, people frustrated, and if it's not you and you're trying to balance yourself out, you might end up caught up in all these energies. So I would recommend, if possible, to be more like at peace and calm. Almost if you can be by yourself, even better. But if you can't, make sure you have some time off. Walks in nature would be very good, very grounding. And if you don't have any place to go walk in nature, then grounding practices where you can either walk bare feet somewhere or even in your house, bare feet. Other grounding practices could be just visualization if you can't walk outside on the ground or bare feet anywhere. Visualizing roots, red roots going down from your sits bones all the way into the ground and being held with love and support by the earth, almost like you grow these roots and you're held, and you can breathe and bring the energy down. If and you stay calm, most of all stay calm. If you are very sensitive and you pick up on the heightened energies of the environment and the world, and you're like angry or processing anything, like, yeah, get your meatloaf out and you know, or get a drum. You know, the other thing is great is like an instrument that you can actually hit. So drumming is like, get a little drum. And if you don't have a drum, you know, drum on a book, like ba 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 ba, you know, it doesn't matter. Just get the energy out in some way, shape, or form uh that is good. And that way you can help the collective to release a little bit of that energy. And last but not least, if you do find yourself in the middle of a fight, a conflict, or a projection game or something like that, the best thing to do is to say, can I please remove myself from this situation at this moment? And can we visit this next week? Can we talk about this? I'll be very happy to revisit this, but not right now. So remove yourself because the tendency will be to engage and engage and engage. So do not engage, do not engage, do not engage. So again, You have been given all the tools to how navigate this eclipse in a peaceful way, especially if you're the people that are going to be most affected, Libra, Aries, Cancer, Capricorns. And just rejoice with the new chapters and navigate this with peace and love. And that's how we help the world. And I love you, and I will see you in our next video where I will cover a lot of new things with all the new energies coming in. This was Emergency Eclipse. Please feel free to like, subscribe, and share this video. That helps this channel to grow. It helps people to listen to these messages, and even if you leave a comment, I will be very happy to read it and respond to it, um, and see how you are feeling and how you feel this eclipse. That will help also the channel to grow, and I really appreciate that. I love you and see you in the next video.